You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network. Here we go.
I'm not ready. Are we going to talk about this, or we're just going to go?
No, we're going. I mean, this is it.
We're on.
Yeah, we are on.
Okay.
Well, actually, we're about to be on right now. How's everybody doing? My name is Jonathan Jiles, and this is Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong on the All on Georgia Radio Network. This is episode 1. We are so thankful for listening. Today I have with me Jessica Szilagyi, who's always here with us, media mogul. She is now podcasting, doing television on Fox 5, running multiple websites, so it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks.
Also here with us, we have Matt Lowe. Matt is he's an anarchist, so, you know, he's always curmudgeon-y and a bunch of fun. So, Matt's also a hunter. His bio says gatherer. I'm not sure what he's gathering. Also refers to him as a smart-ass extraordinaire. Matt is a contributor for All on Georgia Paulding. I am a contributor for All on Georgia Douglas. And Jessica pretty much just writes wherever the hell she wants. But mostly she covers Bullock, Tattnall, and I can't even remember what all counties. What all counties are you covering now?
Bullock, Tattnall, Evans, Screven, and then a little bit of Wayne, and then everywhere else when I need to fill in.
I have no idea where Screven County even is.
It's right next to
Tuckahoe
Bullock.
WMA is there.
Oh, there's a WMA there?
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly, yeah, that's okay. Can you hunt pigs at that WMA?
Yeah, it's actually a really good WMA for pigs.
Okay, well, we'll get to pigs. You know, at one time, I remember Jessica did a Fox 5 segment on pigs.
I did.
Something to do with filming pigs. That was...
Yeah, our state legislators in all their glory wanted to make it the law to require that you get a permit if you wanted to film hogs in a movie. So.
Well, that's we have children here.
Yeah, my 3-year-old just walked in.
Everybody watch your language.
She's being carried off right now. Daddy! I have 6 more. So they may come down too.
Jesus Christ, I don't know what I've committed to here. It's going to take me like 8 hours to edit this.
Hell no, leave it in.
Oh, wow. Okay, so how's everybody doing today here? I mean, what do we got going on? Okay, let's actually get down to the things that matter. So I know that we've all been, the legislative session is in session. That's scaring the hell out of us all. And if it doesn't scare the hell out of you, then you're probably not paying enough attention. So,
Right, I clutch my wallet.
Yeah, well, you better. I mean, it's, they're coming for your liberty. They're coming for your money, and, they're apparently coming for your tampons. It's, there's quite a lot going on this year in the legislature. So, is there anything going on in the legislature that anybody likes this year?
Well, I'm a fan of the special license plates for honeybees.
Really? Now, first of all, I am just dumbfounded that you're a fan of anything coming out of the legislature. But why the honeybees?
It's the least worst thing they'll do all year.
Look, I'm sure if you made it far enough into this podcast to hear this disclaimer, you figured out we are some opinionated people. So it goes without saying that the views expressed by the hosts and the guests on this show are their own and not necessarily the views of all.
What about you, Matt? What do you like?
Let's see. I'm a fan of House Bill 332, which is the Outdoor Stewardship Act. Now, I should probably say that while I'm a fan of it, there's things about it that I don't like. But what it is there's already a sales tax that's collected on outdoor equipment, guns, bows, tree stands, camouflage, that kind of stuff. And it's all supposed to be used for, like, different projects within the purview of the Department of Natural Resources. But it doesn't. It just goes right into the general fund, and then they figure out where they're going to do it from there. But what this bill does is it takes 75% of that money and dedicates it to like equipment, land acquisitions, clean water supplies, fisheries, that kind of stuff. So okay. My only issue with it is it only dedicates 75% of it. It was sold to the outdoorsmen of Georgia as a tax that would be used for this. So now there's 25% of that money that's sitting out there that they're still just going to the general fund. But.
Okay. Well, it's good. In these kind of conversations, it's always really good to start out with a positive. Now, let's go on what I'm sure will be the bulk of this show. What do you hate? We'll start with you, Jessica.
Well, I think one of the worst bills that's come out so far this year is Senate Bill 336 by Senator Renee Unterman. She's from Gwinnett, and she kind of has a history of just garbage bills. And it's actually a bipartisan bill. Josh McCoon's on it, Senator Butch Miller, and then Gloria Butler. But it basically creates like an NSA-style privilege for the GBI here when they're dealing with crimes against children and human trafficking cases. And basically it would allow the GBI to subpoena your phone record information or anything electronic, like your emails or on your computers, without the service provider like Verizon or AT&T having to tell you that your information has been subpoenaed. So basically they can collect all the data on you under the guise that they're doing an investigation, and then you'll never know about it. There is supposed to be a check on it, which is by the Attorney General's office, but we know how good the Attorney General's office is at enforcing the law, so I don't really have much faith there. But it's just a garbage bill. There's nothing good that can come out of it.
So the government they're writing a bill so they can spy on you, and then they're writing in their own checks and balances on it?
Right.
Is that... No.
Well, it's really, and look, I don't spin this out of context, but it's, because obviously everybody across all political spectrums opposes child trafficking, sex trafficking, all of that. But it is amazing, just absolutely amazing to me how much liberty has been at risk in the state of Georgia in the pursuit of stopping child sex trafficking, and how many stupid bills have come up in that name. We're now taxing strip clubs in an attempt. We don't know where, the money is not going to any task force that I'm aware of, but we're taxing strip clubs to stop child sex trafficking. Representative Rakestraw last year had a bill to basically, the state was going to get in the business of selling porn. And they were going to do that through having to pay a $20 fee to get your phone unlocked so that you could access porn. And that was also done in the name of stopping child sex trafficking. So it's just absolutely amazing what this state will do under the guise of helping the children. While, one of the main things they can actually do to help the children, which is pass legitimate medical marijuana reform, they absolutely refuse to do.
Well, I agree with you about everything that you've said so far, and ironically, I think Senator Unterman was one of the biggest opponents to things that would actually had proven effects of helping children, and there were actual parents there saying, this will help our kids. But the fact that she has taken a cause, which is human trafficking, and exploited it to pass all this legislation, I think does a disservice to all of the organizations that actually work to help victims and are actually having an impact on it instead of just, putting out a campaign flyer about it. So. Right,
absolutely. What about you, Matt? What do you hate? I know you hate lots of things.
Let's see. Which ones do I hate?
But by the way, just to throw in a little bit of what's happening now, Jessica is consuming something out of a giant cup. It's like the biggest cup bowl thing that you've ever seen. I don't know what's in this thing, but
like a
it's
salad bowl with a handle. Man, y'all were talking about my cotton candy, man.
Am I the only one who ate dinner before we decided to record tonight?
No, man, I had dinner at 6 o'clock. We had chicken noodle soup. It's great.
I mean, look, what we need to do is, look, we can, if we're all going to eat when we record anyway, we might as well all meet at a restaurant and just bill all on Georgia for it. I mean, I don't have a credit card. I'm sure Jessica does. It's not my card.
I'm just eating my cotton candy. And I've got some coffee. It's decaf because I'm old and it's after 6.
You don't want to be up all night past like 10, huh?
Well, I try to go to bed somewhere around midnight, but I'll be up till 2. Then I'll have to get up and pee again at 4. So, all right, so the bill that I hate, man, well, I'm trying to bring us back around, let's right this ship.
You gotta start over.
Why?
Because we're all laughing.
No, we're having fun. All right, so the bill that I hate is, I've seen 2 of the state legislators ask about it on Facebook here, and I don't remember the bill number, but it's this distracted driving crap. Well, I assume it's just more nanny state stuff, man.
You know what bugs me?
We read a little bit about it, and it seems like really the municipalities are going to be able to, just kind of charge whatever they want for it, and it's a whole lot of additional probable cause.
I raised so much hell about that bill that Micah Gravely called me just to get my thoughts on that, and I gave them to him, and I think he's going to take them under advisement. I have a lot of faith that, that Micah Gravely is going to take my thoughts under advisement on this bill. So hopefully I'm going to right that ship. We'll see what happens.
I hope he does, though, because, all these legislators put out these Facebook posts and field all these questions, and then they don't take any of those suggestions back to the table in the committee process. And I know the felony part was taken out in committee, I think, on Tuesday, but there's still so much wrong with the bill. And it's probably going to pass because who wants to be against the children? Other than us.
Right. And it's, and really what my concern with that bill is I have a lot of Fourth Amendment concerns about that bill and about how it's going to play out. And, one of the things that's really concerning is, this provides probable cause for you to be stopped for nothing more than having, than an officer saying that they saw you with a cell phone in your hand. And so, there's that. And then my concern is that it could even get worse. We could legitimately have a situation where, what if we take this to the next level? What if, it becomes, there's an implied consent addendum coming down the road when this doesn't work. And now you're basically opening your cell phone up to, any officer that states that they saw you on your phone. You can either hand your phone over to that officer or you can go to jail. It's a possibility. It can happen through an implied consent law.
Well, another thing too is that, they had all this expert testimony come in as they went around the state to hear about all this for the last 6 or 8 months, and they had people testify, law enforcement and, analysts say there is no proven effect that these types of laws reduce crashes or deaths related to distracted driving. So why don't they just pump the brakes and wait until someone finds a solution instead of implementing a solution that has had minimal or zero effect?
I was talking to someone at a local sheriff's office here. I don't remember who it was. It was a couple of years ago. And it was after we passed that first no texting while driving, can't muck around with your GPS, all that, whatever that was a couple of years ago. And they were saying that these type of laws tend to cause more accidents because people continue to mess with their phones. Now, instead of setting their phone up on their steering wheel in their line of sight, they're holding it down low so no one can see it. And so, kind of the unintended consequences there, that this feel-good legislation causes more accidents.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that because, it's, you used to sit there and, you would hold your steering wheel and your phone in your right hand, and, you're sending your text with your thumb while you're holding the wheel with your right hand. Now, I don't advocate this kind of thing, but, it happens. But, like you said, it's still, in your line of sight. But, now, everybody's, you got to keep the phone in the lap. You got to be so discreet. And, it's just, and, the other part of this is that bill, the distracted driving law that we have now down in Columbus PD, I trying to put a date on it. I want to say, sometime in the fall, Columbus PD gave out like 200 and something tickets for distracted driving. And
there's a lady here in Statesboro who was over in Pooler, and she was given a citation for eating an egg roll.
There's got to, come on, Matt. Somebody.
Wow.
Okay, we'll pass that. Okay. So eating an egg roll. I guess my first question is, how was it? What's the final outcome there? Was she actually found guilty? Did she pay the ticket? Did she fight it and win? What happened?
I think she got an attorney and it went to court, but I don't know the outcome. But I believe it was reduced. I don't think it was dropped because technically under the law, the officer wasn't wrong to give her a ticket for eating the egg roll.
Wow.
Technically, having kids in the car is a distraction.
Having kids in a car, I think there's actually been some studies done that having kids in a car, particularly if they're under like the age of 4 or 5, is a bigger distraction than a cell phone. It's, the cause of more distraction, more looking around. It's everything's a distraction. It's a reality. At what level does this stop? Are we going to stop allowing people to have passengers in the car with them? That's a distraction. Like you said, kids in the car, that's a distraction. What's not a distraction? Traffic in itself is a distraction.
Right. The potholes on 278, where I drive every day, that's a giant distraction.
Yes, it is. That is. You can thank your local governance for that.
So,
right. You think that with that windfall, what is? I can't remember what GDOT called it, but that big giant tax that they passed.
Well, what we called it was the largest tax increase in Georgia history.
Right.
Which was accurate and correct.
The Transportation Funding Act.
Yeah, that. It needs to be fill the potholes on 278 Act.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know what happened with that money. I think they spent most of it, when they burned down 85, I'm sorry.
85.
Yeah. That time Georgia burned down I-85 and rebuilt
it. Blamed it on a crackhead.
That's Georgia for you.
Yeah, we're gonna show our. And I love the way that they made it seem like it was just the greatest. It was the greatest management of a project in history. When literally the only thing that they did was they rewrote all of the contracts to C.W. Matthews, to where C.W. Matthews was not bound by the deadline dates on any contract other than that one of all their state contracts, and basically wrote them a blank check. Under that kind of scenario, I'm pretty sure that I could, get the 85 bridge put back up and pretty record time, you know?
Right?
Yeah. I have unlimited resources and nothing else to do. I mean...
All right.
By the way, if you know, we can retract that comment if C.W. Matthews would like to sponsor the All on Georgia podcast, which you can sponsor. Let me tell you why you're wrong. And to do so, all you need to do is email Jessica at allongeorgia.com.
I feel like we didn't really get into why we chose Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong. Don't you think we should tell people a little bit about that? Well, I think that the title speaks to kind of how we approach politics, in that we all kind of look at a bill or an initiative and say, you know, I understand the intention, but is it the proper role of government, or is it, you know, within the means? Is it a limited government approach? And then we all kind of look at everything from like through the scope of, is this the proper role of government? And so when we're doing that, we're able to say no, and this is why it's wrong, and it kind of just fit. Plus, I've always wanted to write a book titled that, and Matt said he wanted to also, and you just kind of tagged along. So,
yeah, I'm just here. You know, I'm just at the end of the day, you know, I'm just the guy pushing the buttons here. Don't mind me. I'm just the fat AV nerd. You know, I'm just the guy dropping these sick beats at the top of the show.
Right.
Oh, by the way, while you were having all your computer problem, I made that joke to Matt, and Matt had no idea what a sick beat was.
Well, he's almost 45. What do you expect?
Yeah, 45. I know. That's...
Come on now. I'm 40. I'll be 40.
No, you're... No.
I am old. Whatever.
I think you're pushing mid-40s.
Yep.
And what about Jessica? I mean, she's been 29 as long as I've known her.
Right? I think I've wished her a happy 29th for 3 years now.
You're tripping.
Look, all I'm saying is you need to produce a birth certificate, okay?
Fine. I will show you the papers,
It
Donald.
better not be from the state of Hawaii.
That's right.
Yeah. I want the long form.
I almost snorted coffee.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. Need a little drum kit up here so I can...
You're the sound guy. You can add whatever you want.
Right?
Well, thanks for ruining it for everybody else. You don't have to tell all my magic here. Okay, so we've covered all the bills that we hate.
No, we haven't.
No, you know what, though? No, I had some questions.
We have not. Okay, well, let's get back to that. I do apologize for whomever I may have offended. I didn't know that we had more bills we wanted to hate on.
No. I'm still hating on this distracted driving thing. I'm curious.
Well, that's quite a thing for you to be hating on, considering the massive amount of distraction that just happened. You know what? I think this may be a good segue into that ADD conversation, but we'll handle that later.
Right? No, that's for another podcast at another time.
Yeah.
That's a 3-hour one right there. I don't know, though. I can't talk about something that doesn't exist for 3 hours. So.
There's a cricket sound effect playing.
All right, so back to this distracted driving thing. Enforcement. How... I realize that we kind of touched on that a little bit about, possible, Fourth Amendment and implied consent and things like that. But let's just, assume that they're not going to go that route. How would that be enforced? Or how do you imagine that being enforced? Because I know, like me, I wouldn't hand over my phone to a cop on the side of the road,
Basically, my understanding is that it doesn't matter. That basically under the way that the new legislation that's come out of committee during the latest committee hearing, basically the way that it's written now, if you are seen touching your phone, that is prima facie evidence of a crime. Whereas right now there's loopholes if you're using GPS or you're on a call or blah, blah, blah. I can't recall what they all are. But basically those don't exist anymore. It's basically as simple and cut and dried as if a cop says they saw you on your phone, then you're guilty of this crime.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's crap.
Yeah, that's I am not pleased with that. That is because number one is that's and I hate to because I do support law enforcement, but I mean the fact of the matter is there are bad actors in every profession, and how do you argue in court something that someone claims they saw?
Well, the courts have already said that, what a law enforcement officer testifies to in court has more weight than that of a private citizen. It happens all the time with DUI cases. So the fact that we're opening up these laws or these pathways of basically taking away any type of defense for a person, I think is the most dangerous part of it.
Right. And, I don't, and like I said earlier, backing up, I don't like the fact that I don't like that you can just be pulled over. I'm not for giving more legitimate reasons to stop people. I've been told by several cops that, if you're good at your job, you're good at enforcing traffic, if you follow somebody for 3 minutes, that you will have a reason, not a made up reason, a legitimate reason under Georgia law to pull them over. That is how many traffic offenses we have right now. And we're wanting to add another one.
It's a no for me.
Absolutely. No from me too.
It's crap.
Before we leave the idea of vehicles and everything, Senate Bill 331 by Senator Lee Anderson, who's in Augusta, he wants to add cameras to interlock devices for people convicted of DUI. So these people who have been, sentenced to have an interlock device in their car for a year, 18 months, 2 years, whatever the case may be, now they have to go get new equipment, more expensive equipment, and they have to take a picture of themselves blowing in the tube, and that is uploaded to the Department of Driver Services for compliance. So I'm against it. I would love to know what you guys think, because it's kind of controversial. I mean, everybody wants solid DUI enforcement, and they have been convicted of a crime, but to me, you're kind of going back on a sentence you already administered.
Well, I suppose my first question here is, do we have, before we even delve into whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, I think the first question is, do we have a problem? People, having other people, kind of blow into their interlock device so that they can drive drunk. I mean, is that really a problem? I suppose my first question is, if I've already been convicted of DUI and I have an interlock device and I'm out with you two and Matt hasn't been drinking, why am I going to have Matt blow in my interlock device and then drive home drunk instead of just having Matt drive?
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me.
No, I agree.
Wouldn't it make it where, let's say we all went out and now I'm trying to drive your vehicle home and I blow into it and it hits my picture or my face.
That's a great point.
How does that work?
Well, yeah, you'd have no privacy or no protections. And also, I was looking at the Georgia Open Records Act, all of that. There's no protection for that in the bill, and there's no protection in the actual Open Records Act. So all the photos uploaded to the Department of Driver Services, whether it was the proper person blowing or not, would all be subject to, any open records request and could be distributed to anyone.
And I suppose my next question is, as far as actual usefulness, I mean, are we going to hire somebody to sit and review these photos every day to make sure that it's the right people blowing in the interlock devices? What are we doing here?
I would assume that it's going to work off of a facial recognition thing. I mean, you think about that technology has to be relatively cheap by now. Just, Facebook alone has some fantastic facial rec. That's an assumption on my part.
Well, I would imagine that after the legislative session, we could check the campaign disclosures if this bill passes and find out exactly who was pushing it.
Right?
Yeah. And I can definitely, I'm sure that kind of stuff is big business, as is I know that the people that, the drug test people are huge business and huge lobbyists, so I'm sure that people that make interlock devices are also, working the government. Well, I mean, they have to be, because they're a government contractor specifically. I'm sure that there's probably just a very minuscule amount of people that go out and purchase interlock devices when they don't have to.
Right.
It's all court ordered.
So who would pay for it?
They pay for it.
Yeah, it's on the...
Like even the data services that would be used to upload it and all?
I don't think so. I think it would all be like... Because I believe you have to take your machine to be calibrated and things like that. So I would imagine that when you do that, then the photos would be uploaded at that time at like a central location for, maybe weeks.
Yeah, because, Matt does bring up a really good point. I mean, if it's happening instantaneously, then clearly they're using cell phone data to do it.
I don't think it's that simple.
Well,
I mean, if it's just if they just store the pictures, what good is it? Like, I'm not sure what they're looking to accomplish at that point.
Yeah, I think that's my big question. Is I don't even understand. The only thing that I see being accomplished here is that you're causing DUI offenders to have to spend more money and buy new equipment. I mean, that's it, because if it was updated in real time and somebody's actually looking at it, even the next day or whatever, then I see something there. But if that's not happening, then what are we doing? This is...
I'm sure that there was
insane.
I'm sure there was a constituent in his district who had something happen because someone else, blew in an interlock. I'm sure it was a very unique situation, and now something is, quote, having to be done, and this is a result of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a solution in search of a problem.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So, yep, I'm opposed.
So, are we still talking about legislation, or are we moving on?
No, if you got legislation, let's keep going.
I have one more thing that I wanted to bring up, and it just happened in the last, 24 hours. But Scott Holcomb, who's a state representative outside of Atlanta, or in Metro Atlanta, he dropped a bill recently, about 2 weeks ago, to make it so that victims of domestic violence could get out of their lease. If they could prove that there was some sort of imminent danger, and they could get out of their lease with their complex or their landlord without financial penalty. I came out pretty heavy against the bill. I'm against, mandating that a business do the moral thing, despite the fact that, of course, I'm sympathetic to victims. But it's a bipartisan effort, and regardless of how you feel about it, you can at least acknowledge that the intention is good. So it's he was the sponsor, and then State Rep Mandy Ballinger is the co-sponsor from Cherokee County, and she's a Republican. He's a Democrat. So she's second signer and decided, I guess yesterday, that she wanted to copy the language exactly in its entirety and create her own bill, have all Republican sponsors, which is what, the speaker and all of leadership likes and prefers, because they don't want to give Democrats any credit. And so she decided that she was going to mimic it completely and take credit for it and pretty much shove the original idea maker out of it. So that's just a little bit of inside baseball. Regardless of how you feel about the legislation, it kind of makes you question the intentions of the legislator if she's so concerned about getting credit for it instead of actually helping people. So just wanted to throw that in there and shame her a little bit.
Well, and yeah, that's definitely, how the politics work.
Posturing. Lots of it.
Absolutely. Have we covered law enforcement pay?
Nope.
Law enforcement pay. Does everybody think about law enforcement pay?
It should be decided at the local level.
See, and there's actually this is a long and storied thing that began when state troopers were given a raise to like $46,000 a year starting pay, and immediately thereafter, some, not all. I don't want to throw every sheriff under the bus, but there were some sheriffs that started clamoring that they wanted that same pay for their agencies, and they wanted to get it from the state. So that's kind of the origin here, and we've kind of morphed a lot. I'm not going to bore everybody with all of the graphic details, but basically where we are right now is here. Right now, what we're looking at is if you are a cop and you make under $35,000 a year, then you can get a tax credit up to $35,000 a year. So what do we think about that specifically?
I'm not a fan of making like a special class of citizens out of anybody with the law. So, I mean, if you're going to give tax breaks, then give them to everyone that makes less than $35,000 a year.
I totally agree. And then the other thing, too, is you're creating a class within a class. So you're just saying some law enforcement officers are worthy of that. And, I mean, what are you going to tell the guy who makes $35,500? I mean, oh, sorry, that extra $500 worth of work you did was just not as valuable under tax law as the,
right.
The first $30,000.
You're over the line.
Yeah.
Sorry about your luck.
Yeah. It's just bad policy. And, we have so many exemptions already. Our tax law is so broken. We have pages and pages and pages of special privileges for different groups and people. And I feel like the number of people we continue to make these for gets smaller and smaller. It used to be much larger groups. And now it's just, how many law enforcement officers in the state make less than $35,000 a year? That's what I would like to know.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely, it's going to be a regional thing too. Which, I think that there's probably a lot more in your part of the state that make under $35,000 than do up here. I think pretty much everybody in the metro is going to be at or over that 35.
I bet some of the cities, some of the smaller cities that are, 4 square miles, Powder Springs, Austell, some of those cities, I bet they're less than 35.
Yeah, you very well could be right. So that's I don't know, I was drifting off. I lost focus. Non-existent ADD.
Right?
Yeah.
I can't believe that we've been talking about taxes for 4 or 5 minutes and no one's thrown in a taxation as theft.
Well,
I just did it.
I mean, yeah, that's usually your thing, You're usually my go-to guy for a hashtag taxation is theft.
Right?
You let me down. You let me down for a while. So.
What's left? I know Jessica was talking about some gastric bypass thing the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, gastric bypass.
Not that she wanted a gastric bypass.
I don't qualify under the state standards. Thank you very much. No, State Rep Katie Dempsey. She's up in Floyd County, I believe. She's just at it again with her heartstring tugging legislation. She wants to reinstate a bypass program. It's a pilot program. We had it, I think they voted on it back in 2013. And back in 2013 is when we still had a movement in the state house that had several legislators that would actually push back on things and vote no, but many of those people are long gone. So everything pretty much just soars through. But she wants to give, I think, a couple hundred state employees the ability to have gastric bypass if they meet certain obesity standards. And they would be allowed to have that covered under their state benefits plan. So basically, tax dollar funded if this would pass. And there's really no reason for it not to, because it did before.
So we're not even talking about all state employees, just certain state employees?
Just the obese ones.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. We're not even covering all the obese employees, are we?
No.
It's horrible, Has anybody considered buying a treadmill for the state employees?
Treadmill. Some quinoa.
What about a yoga class?
Hot yoga. Man, my buddy Danny, he talks about hot yoga all the time.
Have you ever done it?
No, I'm fat. Do I look like a guy that does yoga?
It's great.
No. When we were getting ready for our hunting trip out in Colorado this past October, man, there's some hot yoga studio up in Kennesaw, and Danny was up there all the time trying to get me to go, and I'm like, no.
That's a really, really good story.
You'd have to know Danny, man.
Yeah, that's. I do know Danny.
Yeah, you do know Danny.
Wow. So, Jessica, tell us about your experiences with hot yoga.
Hot yoga is extremely hot. Like, I used to sit in the back corner so I could get whatever air was slipping under the door. Just for just a breath of light. It's intense, but it's great for you, and it makes your skin really clear.
So, for people that don't know what hot yoga is, why don't you tell us?
It's like a sauna. You do yoga in a sauna pretty much, and you sweat your behind off. And they set the room, I think, at 110 degrees or something. I mean, it's insane. It's very hot. So, and you do yoga, regular old yoga, but it's intense because you can't breathe.
That doesn't even sound safe.
Okay, Dad.
Look, I'm just saying, every year we have high school football players that die.
Yeah, but you're
working out in temperatures less than that.
You're just stretching and doing, movements. You're not tackling a 300-pound man.
Well, I got to give you that. I guess hot yoga is a safer alternative to football in August.
Yes.
I've never tried it. I can't do yoga.
I'm looking at yoga positions now, trying to envision which ones.
I was wondering where you went. That's
which ones would be the most difficult to do if I was just soaked with sweat.
This took a shift.
No, you had it right the first time. This took a shit.
Next up on the All on Georgia Health podcast.
Matt will discuss organic growing, and Jessica will be telling us all about a gluten-free diet. I don't know anything about health food. I eat keto occasionally. It's an excuse to eat a lot of steak is how I look at it.
How do you eat keto occasionally? It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, well, my lifestyle includes French fries and spaghetti. So, I clearly, you can tell by looking at me that I'm not, I don't live the keto lifestyle full style, But, I do enjoy eating a lot of steak, so I like to call it keto. Because sometimes when I order a steak, I order the green beans as opposed to the baked potato. Keto.
Well, I did do a thing where I tried to eliminate meat from my grocery bill this year.
In 2018?
Yeah. I decided when hunting season started that I was going to try to kill enough deer to feed my family, which is huge. For those that don't know me, my wife and I have 7 children. So our grocery bill is ridiculous. But so I decided to try to kill enough deer to take meat out of our grocery bill. And then we're going to start a garden to just try to remove the grocery store from our budget altogether. So I'm sure.
As we do that, we will be talking about, regulations of urban farming and versus down here in the country where you can do whatever the heck you want.
Right? Yeah, I'm my house is in Paulding County. I can't have chickens.
Really?
Like if I wanted chickens, so I could have eggs, I can't do it.
Says who?
God, there was a big thing about it with the board of commissioners. There was a thing from David Austin, I believe.
Is it no chickens at all, or is it certain land requirements, or what?
Yeah, I think there's a land requirement, and I've only got an acre and a half.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because, there's...
I think it's 2 acres.
Paulding. I'm over here in Douglas County, and all of our farmland is gone.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're one urban development away from Clayton County. Speaking of which...
Just get some buses. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. That's a fantastic segue. Speaking of which, Brandon Beach has recently dropped a transportation bill that is, really, really far-reaching. He is basically looking to, bring transportation to the voters and allow the voters to all decide if they want to pay for a 1 cent tax, essentially. I believe that's what it is. I'm trying to pull it up here, but basically what we want to do, or what he wants to do, not what we want to do, is link together all of the transportation. Because I will admit that there are a lot of different transportation entities going about. Douglas County has rideshare. Clayton County has their own transit system. I think that they have bounced back and forth with MARTA a time or two. I can't recall everything in the history of Clayton County. I know that Gwinnett has their own bus lines. Cobb has their own bus lines as well. So, I think that seems to be kind of where where the state is trying to go, is to, create a metro Atlanta transportation system. And the thing that's kind of upset a lot of people is that it seems that the entire thing is going to be under the control of MARTA. And that seems to be, where the issue seems to be. Let's see, according to the AJC, Beach told a crowd at the Atlanta Regional Commission Summit, we have to bring them into the fold, saying that we have Gwinnett and Cobb in the regional transportation system, and we need to get the rest of the metro Atlanta counties in. So, and it's, I'm not sure exactly what to make of all this, because, it's just one of those issues where, really, are we going to have people that are really willing to take a bus from, say, Clayton County up to Gwinnett? Is that really something that enough people are going to do to make it a profitable enterprise? Are we talking high-speed rail? I know that high-speed rail has been the pipe dream, since the 70s in a lot of the country, and it's just, other than a few small pockets, it just has not happened. So, Well, what do we think about transportation in the metro?
Well, I think these regional commissions have made it so that there is no accountability. There's less transparency. There's no ability to get in touch with some of these people. I did an article several years ago about the Atlanta Regional Commission and the fact that something like 9 out of 12 meetings a year these people were missing for these appointments they were taking, or the cities and the counties appoint people to serve on the Atlanta Regional Commission to represent them, but they were missing all of the meetings. So I think the very foundation of it is flawed, because you're talking about a board that's unaccountable and they don't even know what's going on, and then they push these initiatives based on people who have a vested interest in it, and you're never going to get the people to trust what you're doing when you do it that way, no matter how effective it might be or how efficient it might be, which I think it's going to be neither, but that's just my opinion.
Right. And Matt, I know that transportation has taken on a completely different tone out in Paulding County than it is in Douglas County. What's going on out there?
There's a segment of the population here that seems to be opposed to everything, because they want to keep their farms and quiet streets and whatnot.
This is the fastest growing county in the state,
right? And it has been. It's made that list. It seems that I remember years ago we were even in the top 10 fastest growing counties in the nation. But they want a lot of business out here and things like that, and I don't think you can have a large, industry-centered community without public transportation. But I also don't know that a lot of people here. We've been trained really to drive. I don't know that a lot of us would give up our vehicles and use
right.
it.
And I think that's kind of one of the deals, is that Atlanta is not New York. It's an entirely different mentality. There's so much sprawl here that people drive. That's what people do here. As cities go, Atlanta is much more akin to Los Angeles than it is New York. And I don't think that New York-style transportation solutions are going to work in Atlanta.
But at the same time, Atlanta has never provided a transportation service that is faster than driving yourself.
That is very true.
You can sit on 400 a few hours. There's certain times, of course, where MARTA's moving and everything, and there's a certain predictability about taking MARTA, but they aren't faster. Most of the time, the cars are going faster than the train. The buses don't always come on time. We don't have this system like other major cities have, where it is efficient and quick and cheap to take these routes.
Yeah, I agree. I think there would probably be some market for a high-speed rail of some kind that went right into Atlanta. But that's just an assumption.
I think you're right, but I think that part of it is, if such a demand existed, why is the private sector not moving on it?
There's if you drive 278 between Powder Springs and Austell, right there around Oglesby Road, where it comes in, near the Norfolk Southern train station that they built up there, just north of it, there is a privately owned monorail that sits out there, and there's 2 guys that maintain it and test it once a month. But it's been sitting there for the better part of 10 years now. And then once a month you watch them. It goes 700 or 800 yards up this track, and then backs it up and goes right back in. It's kind of neat looking. Looks like those trains down at Disney. But it's a privately owned thing. I don't know what they're waiting on. with it. but it's there.
A customer, it sounds like.
Right.
All right. So, okay, we've covered a lot of state politics. What's going on locally? Anybody had any entertaining local meetings this week? I know that
all my local meetings are exciting.
Your local meetings are always fantastic. You were told to, I know that there were some children that were told to keep their distance from you, right?
Oh, yes. Let's take a moment to talk about Councilman Phil Boyum of Statesboro, Georgia. So I've been covering Statesboro for like 2.5 years now, and there's a councilman, Phil Boyum, former general manager of Spring. Why are you laughing, Matt?
The former general manager of what?
Why are you laughing? Okay. So, Phil Boyum, he's a Statesboro City Councilman. We've had some run-ins for several years. Basically, since I moved down here, he's made life miserable for me. He used to be the general manager at Spring Hill Suites, but he is no longer employed there. I believe he's on the job hunt. But he is the councilman, and there was a meeting on Tuesday, and all these high schoolers from a local school were present to be recognized for winning a championship, and Councilman Boyum got up from his seat and walked over to them and said, "You're sitting with the troublemakers," as I was sitting next to a gentleman who's there to fight for First Amendment rights and always speaks out about Robert's rules and that kind of stuff. And he pointed to us to let us know that, we are in fact the troublemakers because we expect them to follow the law and not be complete jackasses. So
you're a bad influence on children.
I am, and I take that as a badge of honor.
Well, that's outstanding. These Facebook notifications are... I'm going to have to close Facebook here. There's a lot of excitement about this podcast. The notifications are, in fact, regarding this podcast. So, that's there. I know that we had some excitement. Kind of went, halfway viral. Had a lady thrown out of a council chairs, town hall. Ask a question that the councilwoman didn't want to be asked, and now they tossed her out, let her back in. Now they're claiming she wasn't tossed out. It's quite the story down here. It's been pretty impressive.
See, we've had a... Sorry, go ahead. We had a local police chief resign, citing that he would hope that his resignation would keep them from, discussing the details of whatever the private investigation was into him. So we don't know what that investigation was about. I filed some open records requests with the city yesterday, but I haven't heard back yet.
Oh, well, I was going to say, I'm sure they got right back to you.
Right.
Have you considered contacting Attorney General Carr? I hear that's a very helpful thing to do.
Yes, I actually contacted him this week to file an open records request about all the open records requests in the state.
Why is that?
Because he doesn't enforce the law, and so he sent out this garbage press release about how he's helped 260 citizens in the last year with open records disputes and Open Meetings Act problems. So I filed an open records request about how many open records request complaints were sent into the office in 2017, because I have a feeling that I'd say it's at least double, if not more, because I sent in a good number last year, and none of them were answered. None. Zero.
See, Jessica's sitting there thinking, I sent in 260 open records request complaints last year.
She's mad too. Look at when she gets all worked up. She scoots up on the microphone.
I want to be clear. I do not support Attorney General Chris Carr.
It's like most of this podcast is all laid back and chill.
Right.
You mentioned car, and she shoots up right into the microphone.
You could play
Going real broadcast professional.
This is where you play Katy Perry's Roar.
I don't think we can do that. There's all kind of licensing issues and
pay to it.
Yeah, it's we're on the cheap around here. We use royalty-free music. However, if you would like to donate your music to the All on Georgia podcast, send it in, and we'll consider using it. So just send us a YouTube link. We'll get back with you. We'll give you some free press. We can use your music on the show as intro and outro music, bumper music. So, let us know. We'll definitely do that. And if you would like to advertise on this show, send an email to jessica@allongeorgia.com. We'll get you set up. So, I think we've covered quite a bit here. We've got some good state politics. We've got some good local politics. So, I think that we'll be back next week, and next week we'll be covering an entirely new show of more politics, more what's going on, what Jessica does to her hair, hot yoga, what Matt's eating.
Cotton candy.
What Jessica's eating. Yeah, that's, there's a lot going on here. It's a fun show.
Did you already tell people if they want to send a tip, they can tweet us?
You can tweet us at Matt. I'll let you give that Twitter handle out.
Man, that's a long Twitter handle. Let me find it. I had to write it down.
Marketing 101, y'all.
Let me dig through my notes here.
Right.
I can't have it on a computer screen like a young whippersnapper.
All right, let's see.
Using handwritten notes on a legal pad.
The Twitter. Okay, the Twitter is LMTYWYW podcast. It's the first letters of Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. We appreciate you listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong on the All on Georgia Radio Network. You can find us on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and any other place where you can download quality podcasts. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.